channel, hope you all had a wonderful day. Today's video is my July reading wrap-up video and my check your shelf-a-thon wrap-up. So if you watched my July TBR, I had a check your shelf readathon that the lovely Nikki came up with, and that was to read 5 books from different shelves on your bookshelf, basically. So I don't have all of the books to show you. Some of them I donated, some of them I listened to online, but I also have the books that I did read, some of them to physically show you as well. So the first one I read was Jojo Moyes' Still Me, which is the final book in the Me Before You series. I actually sold these books on eBay, I sold book 2 and 3 because I felt personally that I preferred it as just Me Before You, that story, and I was happy if I was to reread it to read just that one book and not worry about the other 2. That was just my personal preference. Obviously it's up to you whether you like them as a series or whether you just like the first one, but that was my personal preference. I enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars, but it just wasn't one that I'd probably read again. Lou is over in America and she's working for a family, and there's lots of different things going on with that, and then she's trying to still be with Sam, who's back in England. And yeah, it was a nice story. I enjoyed it, and I thought the way Jojo Moyes did it was really lovely, but it just wasn't for me. What is it with cats in all my latest videos? Yeah, it just wasn't something I'd probably reread again. So I did give it 4 stars, but I did sell it on. The next book I read, I've started reading the Enid Blyton books, the famous 5 ones. So I read 5 on a Treasure Island, 5 Go Adventuring Again, and 5 Run Away Together. First 3 books, I gave them all 4 stars because I absolutely love the famous 5 stories, and I've been listening to those on Scribd, so they're really good. Next up is another one I don't have, as I gave it to a friend. It was Danny Atkins' Our Song. I did give it 3 stars just because I found it took a really long time to get going, and yeah, it's basically about 2 women that know each other, and something happens to both of their husbands and they end up meeting again after 10 years, I think, in intensive care up at the hospital, and you kind of find out about their lives and what's led them up to this point. And I have to say, I just really didn't enjoy the ending. It's definitely a very chick lit story. It didn't end how I thought it would, and I just wasn't happy with the way it did end. So for me, it just wasn't one I'd read again, and I felt like it took a really long time to get to the final point. And then, as I didn't enjoy the final point, I was like, oh, I mean, it was still a good story, and I think if I wasn't expecting one thing to happen and another did, I'd have probably given it a higher rating, but for me it just wasn't one I'd read again. But if you like chick lit, then it is definitely one I would say give a go, but for me it just wasn't one to continue with, I think. Next up, I read the last 2 books in the Magisterium series. I buddy read these with Nikki, but I did lack behind a little bit on the Silver Mask. So I think Nikki finished hers in June and I finished mine just at the beginning of July. So obviously in this story we follow Cal and his friends up at the Magisterium. I gave this one 4 stars, I believe. Yep, I gave the Silver Mask 4 stars, and then we read the Golden Tower this month as well. I did manage to keep up with this one, and I gave this one 4 stars. Again, there were aspects of it that made me feel really sad, but that I knew were coming from the first book. I just didn't quite know how it would turn out. But they were a great little series, and I would definitely read them again. They're not long books, they're only about 220 pages, and you can fly through them, but they were a good series. I really recommend them, and I'm going to hang on to them in case I decide to do a reread at some point. So there's those. The next one I read, and this one is actually from my Check Your Shelf-a-thon, and it was Cecilia Hearn's If You Could See Me Now. So this one follows Elizabeth and her life, and how she's sort of looking after her sister's son, and she's dealing with her heartbroken father as his wife left, and sort of why she is the way she is. Ivan comes into her life and changes things up, but Ivan is basically an imaginary friend, so he obviously can't stay with her, but once she starts to see him, it's then very difficult for him to be unseen until she doesn't need him anymore, but they sort of fall in love and things kind of go from there. It was okay. If you've been with me a little while and you've been watching my booktube videos, you know that I went through a bit of a buying spree with Cecilia Ahern because I liked the P.S. I Love You film. And I bought all the books that I could find that she had written, and I find them all really samey. And it's not that the stories are the same, because obviously they're not. It's just the way it's written is obviously very samey because it's the same writer, but I just find her books, I feel like not an awful lot actually happens. It's almost like the thing happens at the beginning and then you kind of just have a bit of a journey up until the end where it might wrap it up for you. But yeah, I'm working my way through them. If you've watched my August TBR video, you'll know I'm now doing a lucky dip to choose my books. So when a Cecilia Ahern one pops up, I will obviously read it, but I am hoping none crop up for a little while because I am struggling with hers. I won't be keeping this book. I might pass it on to my friend who has been reading the Cecilia ones after me. But yeah, it was a nice story. I did give it 4 stars because I did enjoy the journey. I just find it very samey, and because I did listen to this one on Scribd, the lady that reads it is the same lady that reads the majority of the Cecilia Ahern books that I've read or listened to, and I find her voice is very samey. It's not a voice that I can easily listen to. I really have to concentrate. So yeah, that was that one for me. What else did I read? Oh, this one's another one for my Check Your Shelf-a-thon, and it was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. It follows the Six, who are a band, and Daisy Jones, who is a singer, and their lives and how they coincide and how they come together. It's a band in the 70s, I believe. 70s? Yeah. A band in the 70s, and all the things they kind of go through to get to where they get to. It's done in kind of like an interview style, and then at the end you kind of get a bit more from the person doing the interviews. She sort of speaks a little bit and you find out a little bit more about her. But it was really, really good. I did find myself actually looking them up to see if they were a real band, because it just felt so real. I was immersed in the world that Taylor Jenkins Reid had created, and I really felt like they were a real band. So I did look them up. They're not, which makes me feel kind of sad. But I really, really enjoyed it. I don't know if anyone has seen the film Still Crazy with Bill Nighy and who's the other guy? Jimmy Nail. That's about like a band from the 60s and 70s, and they've split up and it's them getting back together, and I absolutely love that film and the soundtrack. So I kind of knew I was going to enjoy this one, if that makes sense. Let me know if you've seen Still Crazy. I would love to find out. But yeah, I really enjoyed the writing style. I found it really, really easy to read, and I flew through it within a couple of days. And I've realised I've put the dust jacket back on the wrong way around, so it's all upside down. But no, I found there were characters I really liked. I did try and listen to some of it via audiobook. And I don't know why, but I actually found it a little bit confusing listening to it that way. Because in the book, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, I've just picked a random page. It says like the name of each person at the beginning of their sort of sentence, and in the book it didn't, in the audiobook it didn't always do that, so I did find that a bit of a struggle. But I gave it 5 stars, I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely read it again. So there's that one. Next up is actually a reread. It's a book I read absolutely donkeys ago by Michelle Harrison called The 13 Treasures. It's a trilogy, and I am listening to book 2 at the minute. And it's about Tanya and the fairy realm, and I love the world that Michelle Harrison has created. I really enjoy the different aspects of it, finding out the little quirky things that can, you know, keep fairies away, so wearing the colour red or turning your clothes inside out, just that kind of thing absolutely has me glued. So again, I gave that on 5 stars. I did really enjoy it, and yeah, I'm on book 2 at the minute. So there's that one. And then I only have 2 left. So I read, again, for my Check Your Shelf-a-thon, Lost Christmas by David Logan. I only gave this one 3 stars. And there's a reason for that. So in this book, we follow Goose, whose parents die at the beginning of the year, right near Christmas. And then it's kind of what happens in his life the following year, leading up to Christmas. And I found it a real struggle. I didn't really understand what was going on. I'm not really sure if it was just me being a bit divvy, which is entirely possible, or whether it was just the way it was written that I didn't love. But apparently it is a film with Eddie Izzard, so I am debating watching the film and seeing if that gives me a better hold on it. I don't want to tell you how this ends, because I do feel like that would completely ruin it if you decide to read the book. And I was actually a lot more gripped the last 10 chapters. So I did push myself through it because I didn't want to just get rid of it and not read it. And I have to say, when it got to the last 10 chapters and I was gripped and I wanted to know what happens and who a certain person is, and it got to the end and the reveal was amazing. I was not expecting it, and I thought it was fabulous. But because I found the rest of the book a really hard journey, I've only given it 3 stars. But the ending was pretty great. So there's that one. And then lastly, for my Check Your Shelf-a-thon, I read Poor Unfortunate Soul by Serena Valentino. I gave this one 4 stars. And basically, this story follows Ursula, why she is the way she is. And it's kind of The Little Mermaid, but from Ursula's perspective. And you also have the Odd Sisters in it, who were in the Beast Within book that I read, but turns out you're supposed to read Fairest of All, I think, before you actually read the Beast Within and then this one, because in this book there were quite a few references to the Fairest of All. Not necessarily, I didn't necessarily not understand them, because it gave you enough information that you did get it, but I really think that if I had read Fairest of All, it would have made sense a little bit quicker. But I gave it 4 stars, I really enjoyed it, and I just found it really funny. The first sentence says, "A dark grey mist followed Ursula like creeping tentacles as she made her way through the seemingly abandoned town of Ipswich." And it just really cracked me up because I live in Ipswich. So, yeah, I was pretty much glued from the beginning just because of that, because I thought it was really cool. But yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I really liked seeing why Ursula was the way she was, and why things happened the way they did. And if you kind of see it from Ursula's perspective, I know it's fictional and it's been created, the same as The Little Mermaid, but it does make sense as to why she would act the way she does with everything that happens, why Ursula dies at the end of The Little Mermaid the way she does. Everything is just kind of summed up, and I think obviously Serena Valentino did that on purpose, but it makes perfect sense, and I enjoyed that. So yeah, that is everything I read for July. So how many books is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's 12 books this month. It's not great, I'm aware of that. I've had, when was it? May was a cracking month. April, also a cracking month. But now I'm back to work full time. I don't have as much time to just sit and read. I am off for a week's holiday now, so I'm going to try and read quite a bit, as if you have seen my August TBR video, I have a hefty 500-page book to get through, as well as 4 other books. But yeah, 12 books. I'm pretty chuffed with that, and it's kind of taken down my shelf because I am only keeping 4 of the physical books that I actually read. Where are they? So I'm keeping the 2 Magisterium ones, Poor Unfortunate Soul and Daisy Jones and the Six. Lost Christmas and Cecilia Ahern will both be going. I'm going to donate those. 13 Treasures I actually have in my red poof. That is next to me here. The Famous Five ones I don't own. I listen to those on Scribd. Still Me I sold, and then Danny Atkins I gave away. So out of, how many books did I actually have? 1, 2. Yeah, okay, so I had, 4 books I'm getting rid of, and I'm keeping 4 books. I figure that's pretty good, and it means I'm getting my collection down to books that I really like, and I know that I'll read again at some point. So yeah, I'm pleased with that. If you've read any of these, let me know what you thought in the comments down below. Let me know if you've seen Still Crazy, because it is an incredible film. And yeah, take care, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!